Iran has intensified its attacks on Israel after the death of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. It is utilizing new missiles and weapons that are breaching the Israeli air defense bubble. One such attack took place in West Jerusalem, where dozens of people were injured after an Iranian missile impact. Iran has unleashed its advanced missile arsenal, deploying Fateh series of missiles in retaliatory strikes against US bases and Israeli targets. These missiles are now beating the famed Iron Dome, the Iron Beam, in their own game.
The sky over the Middle East has been transformed into a terrifying canvas of fire and steel as the long-simmering shadow war between Iran and Israel has finally burst into a direct, high-intensity conflict. For decades, the world watched as these two powers traded blows through proxies and cyber warfare, but the rules of engagement have been shredded. The catalyst for this unprecedented explosion of violence was the sudden and world-shaking report of the death of Iran's supreme leader. In the wake of this internal seismic shift, Tehran didn't turn inward to mourn. Instead, it lashed out with a ferocity that has caught the international community off guard. The missiles trailing across the horizon are not just weapons, they are a statement of survival and a desperate display of strength from a regime facing its most significant transition in nearly 40 years. Before we delve deeper into the mechanics of this escalation and the specific weaponry currently threatening to reshape the map of the region, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications. By clicking that bell, you will be the first to receive our first-hand updates, deep dive reports, and breaking news as this volatile story continues to unfold. The death of the supreme leader created an immediate power vacuum that many analysts expected would lead to paralysis within the Iranian state. Instead, it seems to have unified the military wings of the government, specifically the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, under a banner of extreme aggression. The intensification of missile strikes against Israel following this loss is being viewed as an attempt to project a business-as-usual image of strength to both internal dissidents and external rivals. This isn't just a standard military operation, it is a calculated escalation designed to prove that the Iranian state's ideological resolve has not died with its leader. By launching these massive barrages, Tehran is signaling that its regional ambitions and its commitment to the axis of resistance remain as potent as ever. The sheer volume of the launches marks a sharp departure from previous retaliatory cycles, moving away from symbolic gestures toward a genuine attempt to overwhelm the state of Israel. This rise in regional tensions has pushed the world to the brink of a broader conflict as neighbors and global powers scramble to interpret whether this is a temporary spasm of violence or the beginning of a final, decisive war. What has truly sent shockwaves through the global defense community is the reported failure of some of the world's most sophisticated defensive systems. For years, the Iron Dome has been held up as a miracle of modern engineering, a shield that rendered traditional rocket attacks nearly obsolete. However, in this latest wave of conflict, advanced Iranian missile systems are reportedly breaching these defenses with an alarming frequency. It isn't just the sheer number of missiles being fired at once, a tactic known as saturation, but the actual technology of the projectiles themselves. Reports suggest that these new Iranian variants are utilizing maneuverable re-entry vehicles and decoys that confuse the Iron Dome's radar arrays. Even the highly anticipated Iron Beam, a directed energy laser system designed to take down threats at the speed of light, has faced challenges in dealing with the velocity and heat shielding of Iran's newest ballistic threats. This breach of the impenetrable shield has forced a massive reevaluation of Western military hardware. If the Iron Dome can be bypassed, the fundamental security of every major Israeli city is now in question. The psychological impact of seeing missiles successfully strike targets in the heart of the country is almost as devastating as the physical damage, as it shatters the sense of absolute safety that many citizens have relied on for over a decade. Nowhere was this breach more evident than in the recent strike on West Jerusalem. In a city that serves as the religious and political heart of the nation, the impact of a heavy missile caused widespread chaos and injured dozens of civilians. Jerusalem has often been considered a red line, a city that many believed Iran would hesitate to target directly due to its immense religious significance to the entire Muslim world. By striking West Jerusalem, Tehran has demonstrated that no location is off-limits. The images emerging from the impact site show the harrowing reality of modern missile warfare: shattered glass, mangled vehicles, and the panicked flight of families seeking shelter in ancient corridors. This specific strike has intensified fears that the conflict has entered a no-holds-barred phase. The civilian toll in Jerusalem is a catalyst for further escalation, as it places immense pressure on the Israeli government to deliver a response that is not just proportional, but overwhelming. The fear is no longer about border skirmishes, it is about sustained bombardment of civil centers where the potential for mass casualties is a constant, looming threat. The scope of this Iranian offensive is not limited to Israeli soil. In a broad sweep of what Tehran describes as retaliatory action, waves of missiles have been aimed at U.S. military bases scattered across the region. Iran has long viewed the presence of American forces in Iraq and Syria as an existential threat and a barrier to its regional hegemony. By targeting these bases simultaneously with its strikes on Israel, Iran is forcing the United States into a direct confrontation. This strategy aims to complicate the defensive efforts of both nations, forcing the U.S. to focus on protecting its own assets while Israel tries to maintain its national defense. These retaliatory strikes are a high-stakes gamble. Iran is essentially testing the tripwire of American military involvement. The Iranian leadership is betting that the U.S. public has no appetite for another long-term war in the Middle East, hoping that a series of stinging strikes will pressure Washington to withdraw or at least temper its support for Israeli counteroffensives. However, the targeting of American personnel often has the opposite effect, creating a political environment where a massive U.S. intervention becomes almost inevitable. Perhaps most concerning is the public warning issued by Tehran regarding the weapons they haven't used yet. Iranian officials have explicitly stated that the barrages seen so far have consisted only of older, less capable missile models. They claim to be holding their most advanced precision-guided and potentially hypersonic systems in reserve. This claim functions as a powerful tool of psychological warfare. It forces Israeli and Western intelligence agencies to play a guessing game. Is this a bluff meant to deter a full-scale ground invasion of Lebanon or a direct strike on Iran? Or does Tehran truly possess a hidden ace that could render current defense technologies completely useless? If Iran has indeed been using its seconds, then the level of destruction seen so far is only a fraction of what is possible. This threat of unused, more powerful weaponry keeps the region in a state of hypervigilance, making it difficult for mediators to find a path toward de-escalation when the true extent of the danger remains unknown. The nature of the weaponry being used has also come under intense scrutiny. Footage circulating online, much of it captured by civilians on smartphones, allegedly shows Iranian missiles carrying cluster submunitions as they streak over central Israel. Cluster munitions are particularly dreaded in modern warfare because they don't just strike a single point, they release hundreds of smaller explosives known as bomblets over a vast area. During recent barrages, these rain of fire patterns have been spotted in the night sky, indicating that Iran may be attempting to maximize the area of effect of each launch. This isn't just about destroying a specific building or military installation, it is about turning entire neighborhoods into minefields. The use of such weapons in populated areas represents a significant shift in Iranian tactics, moving from the use of precision surgical strikes to a broader, more indiscriminate form of territorial bombardment. This alleged use of cluster munitions has drawn a swift and fierce condemnation from the Israeli military. An IDF spokesperson officially accused Iran of violating international humanitarian law by firing these weapons into civilian-populated regions. The IDF argues that there is no strategic justification for using submunitions in central Israel other than to maximize civilian death and create long-term hazards. The IDF's condemnation is part of a broader diplomatic effort to isolate Tehran on the world stage, framing the current Iranian leadership as a rogue regime that has completely abandoned the conventions of civilized warfare. This war of words is as intense as the physical conflict, as both sides attempt to claim the moral high ground in a situation that is increasingly devoid of any of it. The use of cluster weapons has raised profound war crimes concerns among international observers and human rights organizations. Because these weapons are designed to disperse explosives over wide, uncontrolled areas, their use in urban environments is generally considered a violation of the principle of distinction, the requirement that military forces must distinguish between combatants and civilians. If these allegations are proven true, it would put Iran in direct conflict with the 2008 Convention on Cluster Munitions, though Iran is not a signatory to that specific treaty. Nevertheless, the customary laws of war still apply. The potential for these weapons to cause superfluous injury or unnecessary suffering makes them a flashpoint for international legal action. Analysts warn that if the conflict continues to involve such indiscriminate weaponry, the path to any eventual peace treaty will be blocked by years of legal battles and demands for accountability for what many are already labeling as war crimes. To understand how Iran is able to sustain such a massive and technologically complex campaign, one must look at the sheer scale of its missile program. Iran possesses one of the largest and most diverse missile arsenals in the entire Middle East. Intelligence reports suggest that the regime maintains a stockpile of more than 3,000 ballistic missiles. This isn't just a collection of aging Cold War-era rockets. It is a modern force focused on precision, mobility, and survivability. Iran has invested heavily in missile cities, massive underground complexes carved into mountains that are nearly impossible to destroy with conventional airstrikes. These facilities allow Iran to store, move, and launch missiles with very little warning. The focus of the program has shifted in recent years towards solid-fueled systems, which are much faster to prepare for launch than liquid-fueled models, making them far less vulnerable to preemptive strikes.